The casualty rates the Confederation has endured in every confrontation with the XYX haunt me to this day. Entire army groups were obliterated in mere hours, overwhelmed and torn apart. Armored divisions disintegrated under the relentless assault of bio-titan weaponry. Garrisons were ground into bloody pulp by the ceaseless advance of their warrior forms. Our fleets, gutted and reduced to scrap metal, orbited the worlds we sought to defend, outnumbered by enemy ships that darkened the stars and clogged the skies. The XYX do not bargain. They do not engage in diplomacy, save for demanding the absolute surrender of the species they invade. They harvest the biological material of the living to create more of their own kind. They are monstrous, employing any form of warfare that grants them a tactical advantage. They feel no fear, yet they understand it well enough to weaponize it. Psychotropic gases, terror tactics, and the deliberate targeting of civilians and the wounded to maximize psychological devastation. When we were told that a new race, the humans, would join the Confederation, we were less than enthusiastic. What was one more young race to throw into the meat grinder of war? A few more ships to buy us mere minutes for the evacuation of civilians and the wounded. Our morale was low, and our talk was corrosive. We began to wager on how long humanity would last before fleeing back to their home system, awaiting extermination. How many hundreds of thousands would they waste in this hopeless war? The bets were as grim as our chances of surviving another day. And then they came. The XYX launched their first ground assault on Caicus, and the 17th Army Group was ordered to delay them at any cost. We had been reinforced by human soldiers who called themselves the Fifth Order. Their commander was a seasoned veteran of the last interhuman war of unification. At the time, we couldn't care less. And I'm sure the XYX cared even less. At first, if you've never seen the XYX in battle, consider yourself blessed. They are unnatural. Our intelligence suggests they are a heavily genetically modified race. Their origins lost time. That day, they swarmed us with their infantry, bioforms of flesh and bone, crafted from the biological material of every species they had conquered. These abominations were armed with grafted weapons, enhanced and modified for war. Behind them came their spider tanks and super-heavy armor, their grav engines crushing the ground beneath them. Their lightest armor dwarfed our heaviest. Their bio-titans could take on entire battalions single-handedly, and their ships rained down orbital fire, indifferent to friendly casualties or civilian lives. To them, we were nothing more than raw material for their next wave of warriors. They came with corrosive acid bolts that ate through tanks and bunkers, catalytic energy beams that melted flesh and bone, and appendages of bio-enhanced bone, saws, blades, spikes, and maces designed to butcher, harvest, and feed. I had seen enough friends die to know how hopeless our defense was. Yet, 20 million lives depended on us holding the line. So we tried. By the stars, we tried. We anchored our heaviest armor behind defensive positions, shielded by plasma barriers. Our artillery was capable of leveling mountains, and our war striders towered over cities we defended. We fought with everything we had, 100 species, united in desperation. Plasma and laser weapons, servo armor, trenches dug deep, and soldiers at their stations. We engaged the XYX at 7:12 local time. By 8:23, our lines began to break. By 9:01, the perimeter was breached. We had held for 10 minutes longer than the most optimistic predictions. I broke protocol and begged the humans to send whatever they could to the spaceport to protect the civilians. At 9:02, I shot my superior officer for refusing to swallow his pride and asked for help. I regret nothing. At 9:03, the humans responded with a single communication on an open channel. Understood. ETA command authorized the starfall. Knights inbound. Look to the heavens. We are coming. I looked up. I didn't know what a knight was. The translator glitched, offering only mounted soldier in armor and someone devoted to a cause. At that moment, I didn't care. Then I saw it, a meteor shower. Hundreds of points of light descending from the heavens like rain, like legends from a doomed era. I remember thinking how few they were, and how little strength they could offer. Yet, their descent ignited a fire in my men. We dug in. refusing to give another inch until humans arrived. They came to die with us. The least we could do was stay alive until they got there. I managed to reform our lines and contain the XYX at a dozen breaches along the perimeter. When the human commander requested coordinates for what he called nightfall, I didn't know what it was, but I gave him the breaches. Understood, he said, laughing, perhaps at the sheer audacity of his request. Brace for impact. Clear splash zone. Tyrannies inbound. I laughed too. Splash zone? Tyrannies? I didn't know what they were, but it didn't matter. We were overrun and my forces were shattering. Then it happened. The sound was like a shrieking roar, primal and terrifying. The humans landed right on top of a XYX spider tank. The shock waves sent me to the ground. The tank buckled, its armor cracked and oozing fluids. For a moment, there was silence. Then, from the smoke, emerged 5 figures. They were clad in sleek black armor, adorned with sigils I couldn't comprehend. The leader wore a holographic projection of a reptilian creature with wings, its cape billowing in the wind. They carried blades, hammers, and daggers, no rifles, no long guns, just 5 warriors ready to face an army. The leader spoke on an open channel. The laws of chivalry demand I offer you a chance to surrender or retreat. Choose quickly or face Jovian wrath. It took me a moment to realize he was addressing the XYX. The XYX, of course, opened fire, and then the carnage began. The humans moved like gods of war. Their armor was linked to their minds, their weapons powered by psionic energy. They cut through XYX warriors like paper, their movements too fast to follow. The leader, a knight named Cyrus Amaranth, wielded twin blades with deadly precision. Another knight carried a breaching axe, carving through enemy transports. A giant among them crushed tanks with a 2-handed hammer. Another, adorned with feathers and bones, dissected XYX warriors with surgical precision. The 5th, a sniper, picked off enemy leaders from impossible ranges. 5 knights held the breach. 5, and they deployed 100 more across the battlefield. They called themselves tyrannies, after an ancient predator from human myth. They moved in perfect sync, their psionic abilities allowing them to anticipate enemy movements and strike with devastating efficiency. They were not just soldiers. They were legends, myths made flesh. We didn't win the battle that day, but for the first time in years, our casualty rates were lower than the XYX's. The human ships, their technology, their sheer ferocity, it was unlike anything we had ever seen. Their flagship, the Reign of Vengeance, was a 6-kilometer-long behemoth, dwarfing our largest dreadnoughts. Their railguns fired hypervelocity slugs that turned the surface of Caicus into molten glass, denying the XYX any biological material to harvest. The humans fight for honor, for duty, for what is right. They are a war-tested engine of destruction, and they thrive in conflict. They have slowed the XYX advance, forced them to build fortresses and defensive networks. For the first time, the XYX hesitate, and for the first time, we have hope. Senators, I urge you, embrace humanity's aid. Give them the resources, the information, the support they need. Let them do what they do best. Wage war, because without them, we cannot win. With them, we might just survive.